everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about how our life has changed since going from a family of 3 to 4 and having 2 kids under 2. Oliver will be 3 weeks old tomorrow and Hunter will be 18 months next week. So there was a 17-month gap when Oliver was born, and we do have 2 boys, Hunter and Oliver, who are absolutely adorable but also a bit of a handful. So I reached out to you guys to find out what kind of things you wanted to hear about so that I can make sure that I mention them throughout this video. There were a couple of repeat questions, so I'm just going to kind of briefly touch on each different question rather than reading a list of questions and answering them, and hopefully it answers everything that you want to know about life adjusting to 2 under 2 in the newborn stage, because I'm sure I'm going to have to do another one when Oliver is older and moving around, and how we're adjusting to having 2 mobile children, which I'm sure will be very different to how it is right now. So I've written out a couple of different topics on, I think about 9 on my phone. That way I can hopefully cover everything that you guys want to hear about. And the first one that I've written down here is about how Hunter is coping with having a younger brother and also with my hospital stay. So I had a couple of different hospital stays in the couple of weeks leading up to Oliver being born. I had never spent a night away from Hunter. I'd only ever been away from him for a couple of hours. I'd never been away overnight or anything like that from him before, and he was 17 months old. So it was a major drastic change for him to all of a sudden not have mum around. And he did actually cope with it quite well. I think the key to that was the fact that the first couple of times I was in hospital, he was looked after by his dad, who obviously is around quite a lot and lives with us, and so he's quite used to having him around. And hubby knows his routine, knows what he likes, knows what he doesn't like, and all of that. The second part that really helped was when I actually went into labor, because my waters did actually break spontaneously, and it was a couple of days before my C-section was actually meant to be. My mum was already here. She was actually in the same room as me when it happened, and so she was able to very quickly take Hunter, but because she'd already been here, it was nothing too drastic or out of the ordinary for him, so he didn't completely freak out the second that we went to the hospital, and then mum and dad had to get out of the car and were suddenly gone. She was able to just bring him home, give him dinner like normal, and put him to bed and everything. So he actually coped quite well with that. The first couple of times he was a bit funny. Obviously it was not the best situation for him. FaceTime was a little bit hard. He got a bit sooky over that. So he didn't come in for long periods of time. He got a bit ratty being in the hospital, but once we got to the stage where I actually had Oliver, and then when they moved me into my own maternity room without sharing with anyone, he was able to get down, be comfortable, spend like majority of a day there and be pretty good. So I definitely found that having the little doctor's kit that I bought for him, which is actually in the other room right now, it was like $12 from Kmart, and I had that at the hospital for him that he'd never had before. He absolutely loved that. I definitely recommend finding an age-appropriate toy for your child for the hospital, but I highly recommend that it is not a noisy toy, because if I had someone else sharing a room with me and they had noisy toys going on and off and I'm trying to get some sleep, that would absolutely do my head in. So that was definitely a good key. Even now I only give it to him occasionally if I'm feeding Ollie or if he's really upset, and it really helps because it's something like special that he doesn't always get, and he absolutely loves it. So I definitely recommend that. It also helped distract him a little bit if I had to give Oliver more attention at one point because I was feeding him, or he was getting tests done, or I was getting tests done. So that really helped, but I didn't give that to him until Oliver was actually born. And even though he's obviously like too young to really understand things, I just wanted him to have something else that was exciting for him. So as for the jealousy side, he didn't really get overly jealous in the hospital. I think that's because he had a lot going on, but also a lot of attention from all of us still, because there wasn't really like housework or anything that had to be done. So he could get a lot of attention, and when he was at home, I wasn't there and Oliver wasn't there, so he could have his normal routine and life at home. Once we got home, there was a little bit of jealousy that spiked, and we still have a little bit now, and it's only because if he wants to hug one of us or he wants to hug Oliver and we can't, for whatever reason, say we're holding Oliver, or it's just not a good time, then he will crack it. But aside from that, he's actually pretty good when it comes to jealousy. He mostly doesn't actually want to get cuddles from us. He wants to get them from Oliver now, and so he does, like I said, crack it if he can't hug Oliver, or if we tell him off for trying to hug him the wrong way or something, because obviously they're not the most gentle at 17, 18 months. But overall, most of the time he just wants to hug him, and then if he doesn't want to be around him, he kind of just goes off and does his own thing anyway. I have found that he's a lot more independent with his play since Oliver's been born, but also since I was in the hospital, so he tends to be happy enough to sit down and play on his own and then kind of bring things over to show you, but he doesn't require us to sit with him the whole time to play things. Obviously we still get down and play with him because, you know, he's not being replaced and he still needs attention, but he is definitely a lot more independent, and he is also starting to take instructions a little bit more. So, you know, if we ask him to just like sit down with something or wait, you know, he is getting a little bit more patient, so that is really helpful as well. I feel like had it have been a couple of months earlier, it definitely would have been a lot more harder because he wouldn't have had the language understanding from us, I guess, of things like you need to wait, or the word no, or things like, because I can't pick him up at the moment, if I need to get him a new bottle, I'll just ask him if he wants more and he'll say more. So that really helps, because obviously I can't, you know, pick him up in the middle of a tantrum and take him to the other room because I have had another C-section. So at 3 weeks postpartum, my biggest struggle is obviously that I can't pick him up, I can't do the housework. And that actually leads into someone else's question, which is about outings. A few people have asked how we go with getting in and out of the house. At the moment, it's been relatively easy because I have Tom's help to get the kids in and out of the car, obviously. I can get Oliver in and out of the car fine, but Hunter, I obviously can't lift. So I think I'll be right to lift Hunter, obviously, once I've been 6 weeks postpartum. But the issue will obviously be getting to and from the house, because once I'm already, you know, in the car, out there, I can get them in and out of the pram fine, that's no problem. It's getting in and out of the house, and I think the way that I'll probably do it is put Oliver into a carrier, because I can do that till he's about 6 months before it's too heavy for me. And then I'll obviously either have to carry Hunter on my hips or walk with him and hold his hand. I don't really feel comfortable putting one in the car and coming back inside and doing the other one, because the walk from my door to the car is a little bit far and not in the best suburb to be doing that. But that's probably realistically my only challenge, is just the in and out of the car. But I think that I will eventually work that out. I'm sure that there's plenty of people who do it, because I mean, I imagine that many people would have to do it to go to playgroups, to go to doctors, to go to the shops, like anything like that. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who has to figure that out. And obviously, as the months go on, Hunter's going to get a little bit older and understand things a little bit more, and understand to wait and follow me and stuff like that. So I don't actually think that that's too much of a concern for me. And like I said, when you're already out, getting him in and out of a pram's not an issue. We did get a double pram, so I don't have to chase Hunter around. Makes it a ton easier. And my pram is extremely light. I've already been able to put it together, push it around. Definitely recommend the pram that we got. I do actually have a video on the 2 prams that we have, the single and the double. And in all honesty, we've just used the double the whole time. It is excellent, it is light, and yeah, so I don't actually have an issue with outings. When it comes to things like groceries, I definitely think that it's much easier to just get them delivered. So definitely going to do that, because I don't have to take 2 children to the shops. I don't have to worry about if Hunter has a meltdown. Honestly, the newborn is the easiest when it comes to those things, because you put them in the car, they'll sleep in the car. If you take them to the shops, they'll probably fall asleep there too. they can't really try and jump out of a trolley like a toddler can. So it's actually really a toddler that sees you. So I think the biggest thing is more so like if I want to go do something at the shops on a weekend, then it may be easier for me to leave Hunter at home with Tom, or it may be easier for the four of us to go, but I'm not too worried about that really. When it comes to the nappy bag or diaper bag as the Americans call it, not much has changed really. I'm going to do a video on what's actually in there, but I don't feel like I pack anywhere near as much as what I did when Hunter was first a newborn, and I will do a video on this because I feel like I packed way too much when Hunter was a newborn. But outings are quite simple, and honestly half the time I leave the nappy bag in the car and I just grab out a nappy for each of them and some wipes and dummies, and that's about it, and I throw that in the pram caddy and then off I go. My recovery with 2 under 2 has obviously been different to my recovery when Hunter was a newborn, because when he was a newborn he would sleep a lot because he was jaundiced and I didn't have anything else to worry about. I didn't have a toddler messing up the house, so it could stay relatively clean for whatever Tom helped with. I do find that it's a little bit different this time because obviously, like I said, I've got a toddler to entertain, I've got a house that is getting messed up by him, and there is, you know, a little bit more work I think for Tom, because obviously I can't do the housework and I can't pick Hunter up, so that does make it a little bit difficult. But I have actually filmed my postpartum recovery, which I am going to share with you guys, and my recovery has actually been a lot easier this time, but I don't think it would have been even possible as a single mum if I didn't have a second person with me to be able to pick Hunter up, because I think I would have done a huge amount of damage to my body. So if you're someone who doesn't have much help, you definitely need to look into that, because there is, like I said, no way that I could have done all of this on my own at the beginning. I think once I'd reached my postpartum recovery and got into a routine, I would have been alright. Alright, I'm back. My camera decided to go flat, so I had to charge it for a little bit. The next part that I wanted to touch on was the things that have helped the most with the actual transition, not just the recovery. And I think that making sure that we take time out and sit down with Hunter has definitely been a big thing. Making sure that I'm not just holding Oliver the whole time, and that I do actually hand Oliver over to someone else or put him down and sit down on the floor with Hunter, and basically not like completely ignore Oliver, but just not react straight away. If Oliver cries, like somewhat still focus on Hunter, and you know, I can go like, oh, you know, baby's crying, but not like completely freak out, because we wouldn't freak out if our toddler just all of a sudden started having like a bit of a tantrum or meltdown. So you don't want to make out like they're a lot more important, or like they need all your attention straight away, because obviously there are some moments when you don't give your toddler attention straight away. When they have a meltdown too, you kind of tell them to wait a second. If I'm in the middle of breastfeeding Oliver and Hunter decides that he wants a bottle and he wants it right now, then he needs to wait for me to finish feeding. So the same kind of goes for Oliver. If I'm sitting there and, you know, I am in the middle of doing something with Hunter, then sometimes Oliver needs to wait a couple of seconds, and he is a newborn, he doesn't understand, he's never had to share before, but Hunter has. So trying to find that balance, it did take a little bit of time to try and work out, but I definitely think that making sure that I actually sit down with Hunter and not just sit down holding Oliver is a big thing, because if I just sit down holding Ollie, I can't actually fully get involved with Hunter, and I don't have that same one-on-one time with him. I think something that is going to be really important is occasionally taking Hunter to a play group where I don't take Oliver with me, or even if I just take him to a park where it's just me. That's going to be something that's really important too, because obviously Tom can go and do those things, but originally Tom worked away for 9 months of Hunter's life, and I was his sole provider and spent my whole entire day and night with him. So I still need to do that, and I still need to be his mum as well. I can't just have him occasionally, and you know, I still need to be there and give him the same attention that he had, because we had Oliver to add to our lives, not to swap or take place or anything, and it's not supposed to make Hunter sacrifice his time with us either. Something else that's really helped with the transition is making sure that we always have snacks on hand. We always have just bits and pieces ready to go for Hunter. So something like, I bought a cabana stick the other day, and every now and then we just cut that up and give him a couple pieces as a snack, or some banana bread that my mum made, or carrot cake that my mother-in-law made. Just bits and pieces that he can kind of snack on and eat. Means that if it isn't a meal time, or if meal time's going to take a little bit longer to cook dinner or lunch, then I've got something there that I can quickly give him. Saves a meltdown, and it's easier because if I'm holding Oliver in one hand, I can grab it with the other, and like I said, saves a tantrum and everyone's happy. So that's definitely something that is key. Having the grocery delivery is going to be amazing, having that back. Coles did unfortunately up their prices in delivery, but whatever, you know, it saves my sanity getting it delivered. And so that's definitely going to be something that's really helpful now that my mum's gone back home, so I don't have someone to go and do my groceries for me, which was a bit of a luxury, having someone else to go and do that for me and do my housework. So thanks a lot for that help, Mum. I definitely appreciated it. And that was definitely something that really helped with the transition, is just having, you know, that food on hand, having that one on time with Hunter, because it really just stopped the jealousy, stopped the breakdowns. We also took the side off Hunter's bed, so he now has a toddler bed instead of a cot, and made a big deal of, you know, he's got his big boy bed now and stuff like that, and didn't make a big deal over baby's bed or anything like that. When Hunter comes into our bed of the morning, if Oliver's not in his bed, Hunter will try and jump into his bassinet. We don't make a massive deal of that because we don't, like, we want everything to still stay pretty normal for him, but also we don't want everything to be like we're making a massive fuss of Oliver and then not making any fuss of him or anything like that, and don't also want to like force him to grow up or anything. You know, he is a toddler, he is still meant to be the exact same as before I had Oliver, so just trying to keep everything as normal as possible, trying to keep to his routine as much as possible. We have kind of just let him get up and go to bed and stuff a little bit as to how much he wants. Probably the last week, instead of getting him up at 5:30, some mornings he'll get up at 5:30, other mornings he'll get up at 7. So usually if I did that, he wouldn't have a day nap, but I honestly think he is so exhausted from chasing Oliver like around the house because he wants to go give him cuddles, or chasing one of us around the house, that he still ends up having like a bit of a nap anyway. Everything is still very overwhelming for him, so I'm grateful that he's still having a nap. But once we go, once I'm 6 weeks postpartum, Tom will be going back to work, and we will go back to our original routine of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and taking him to work and coming home and picking him up in the afternoon. And a heap of people have kind of said that that's crazy doing that. Honestly, getting up at 5:30 in the morning, as much as I am not a morning person, taking him to work meant that I actually had to get out of bed, and it gave me a motivation to get out, and I actually ended up feeling better, and Hunter was happier because he'd get up, we'd get a heap of stuff done, he'd have a nice morning sleep, nap or whatever, and I didn't feel as bad by the afternoon compared to if we slept in and he had no day naps. So it worked a lot better. And honestly, if I didn't take him to work and I was just trying to do that routine, it wouldn't work, because I use the time that I drive him to work as my like sanity time, where I basically don't have to do the housework, don't have to pick the kids up, don't have to focus on anything. I can just sit there, I can just talk to Tom. You know, how often do we actually sit there and just talk to our partners about things that aren't kids related? So that's kind of like our time to talk about just random things. And so that like hour that I'm driving, or it's not even really an hour, is kind of my sanity in a way. And so it does motivate me to get out of bed every morning, because I can tell you now, if I didn't take him to work, I probably wouldn't get up at that time, and then I would stretch it out another half an hour and Hunter would not day nap and it would be all over. So we are going to go back to our routine as much as possible. I'm not too sure. Obviously things are going to change a little bit in terms of like exactly what time Hunter might get a bottle or something, because I need to, you know, accommodate for Oliver wanting feeds, because he's demand fed, not schedule fed, which is something that I'm getting used to because Hunter was 3 hourly fed until 7 weeks old, and then we demand fed him. But Oliver is demand fed, and he also has silent reflux, so he is actually a really tricky baby when it comes to getting him to sleep and settle, and even settle during the day. He is in a lot of pain constantly, and feeds are not very far apart. He has like maybe a couple of good sleeps where they're like 2 hours, but then everything else is very close together. So that's definitely going to be something that will become probably, I guess, a little bit of a challenge, trying to work out then how that works in with Hunter's routine. But ideally I'd prefer to keep Hunter's routine as much as possible to accommodate him, because newborns can fit around things, whereas what we had with Hunter was working, so there's no reason to change that. I don't need to make a new routine because of the newborn. I just kind of need to adjust things slightly to accommodate for obviously bathing Ollie and stuff like that. And I think the easiest thing for me is to, during the week when Tom is at work, have my shower of an evening before I go to bed instead of having it in the morning. And I will probably shower and bath the other two in the morning, because Hunter is now capable of standing in the shower on his own instead of having to have one of us shower him, and I can sit on the side and bath Ollie on the days that I need to do that, or I can bath Ollie when Tom's home from work and only worry about Hunter in the morning. And I'll probably rely on my slow cooker a lot, I guess, to get things done, or to do easy meals like putting things like chicken schnitzels and veggies in the oven, because there's no preparation really. Cut a couple of vegetables up, throw it in the oven, and that's it. And I can still go and spend time with the kids while I have that in the oven. So I don't realistically think things will change too much in this newborn stage. I think the challenge is actually going to be once Oliver is moving, once he is probably 6 months old and crawling, because I'm not going to be able to keep him contained in the porta cot or anything like that. We do have the porta cot in the lounge room with the change table on it. It means that I can sit on the couch and put Ollie on it. It is quite a deep frame, so it's not the same as leaving him on change table. He actually can't physically roll out of it like he could off a change mat, but it does mean the Hunter can't get to him. And we actually store all our spare nappies underneath in the actual porta cot part, so I don't have to walk around the house looking for nappies or wipes or anything like that. Something you definitely want to do with 2 under 2 is make sure you have more wipes and more nappies than you need for the actual week, and that way, if for whatever reason you can't get to the shops, or your shops is out of their nappy size, you don't have to drive to a whole nother store or anything like that to get them. They're just, the next packet's already sitting right there that you need to get. Something I did want to touch on is what I would do differently if I could, because obviously people do reflect once their kids are older and go like, what would I have done differently at the time? I can already see now what I would do differently, and unfortunately these are things that I can't do. So something that I think that I would definitely do differently, but unfortunately is out of my situation, is to have had my parents closer. It would have been awesome if we could have still been in Queensland, even though I don't wish we were in Queensland. It would have been awesome, because having my mum here, having her been able to watch the kids for Tom and I to just go to the supermarket, or for us to just go out for dinner one night, was awesome. It is something that we never get to do usually with Hunter, and it definitely would be really nice. My in-laws already have my niece to look after, so it does kind of make it a bit difficult, because I don't really like the idea of throwing another 2 kids at them to look after. Sometimes I do get them to watch Hunter, but 3 kids can be a lot. Obviously they've had 3 kids before, my parents have had 3 kids before, but Hunter and my niece are both toddlers, both very full on. And Oliver is not a simple, easy sleeping newborn. He needs attention like the entire time. So if he is awake, he is unsettled and he needs to be held the whole time. And even just when he's asleep, he can start choking in his sleep. He is a very unpredictable baby. You can't even leave the room for 2 seconds, because you can't guarantee that he's not going to be choking in that 10 seconds that you're out of the room. Obviously you shouldn't really leave babies unattended, but he is a very high needs baby when it comes to that, compared to what the other 2 were. So that does create a bit of a challenge. I am still making mum friends here, so obviously I don't know anyone like well enough that I wouldn't feel bad to go like, you know, can you watch the kids for an hour or something. So I know there are people out there that I can ask that of down here, but I definitely think that it would have been somewhat nicer and easier to have had my parents down here, or even just my mum, because it was really nice being able to just go, you know what, I need time out, can you please watch Hunter for an hour? So if you do have parents nearby, take advantage of it, because when Hunter was born until the time that he was 12 months old, I went out like all of twice, and I wish in the first 6 months that I did live closer to them, that I'd gone out a bit more, because I definitely don't regret spending as much time as I did with Hunter. You never regret spending the time that you do with your children, but I do realise now that I probably didn't need to give myself as much mum guilt, and I probably could have gone out more if I really wanted to and done those things, and it probably wouldn't have really been a drama for me to go and get my nails done or go get my hair done, but I always felt really selfish to try and leave him with someone to do those things. So definitely something I would do differently is, yeah, having a different support network around, I guess, having more people that could help us out with those things. A few people have asked if we would have done our pregnancy differently, and the fact that we actually hid it until Oliver was born and didn't actually tell our family until he was born. And no, I don't think that I would do that differently. I think that it ends up being the best thing for my own mental health, because I didn't have to worry about anyone else's opinions. I didn't have to stress about trying to update every single person in the family about what was going on. I was able to just be present with what was going on, didn't have to pick up my phone and answer 100 questions. I was allowed the space to just go through what was happening, and it really kept my stress levels low, keeping it to a confined amount of people. Obviously, there are parts of it that I wish we could have shared at the time, you know, the excitement of being pregnant and stuff like that, but overall I think that the best thing was the way that we went about it. I definitely feel that keeping the gender a secret until after Oliver was born was great. I loved finding it out that way. I wish we'd done that way with Hunter, but definitely no regrets about having kept the pregnancy a secret at all. Obviously there are a few people who were probably upset by it, but at the end of the day we did what was best for us as a family, and yeah, I don't think that I regret that at all. I probably regret only the way that it makes those people feel. Like, that obviously isn't the best thing, but at the end of the day there were a lot of things going on, and even though the very first part of the pregnancy was a bit of a breeze, the last part I'm definitely grateful that it was just us in that moment going through everything, and we could solely just focus on the kids at that time. And yeah, I think there are a lot of people who mean well, and there are also a lot of people who are sticky beaks, and so it definitely was, yeah, really good to just have the couple of us, but also it was really nice just for Tom and I to enjoy it, just us, because it is, well, it was our last pregnancy. We're not having any more kids now, so having, yeah, the two under two now, you know, it's our last child, and I think that the way that we went about our pregnancy, the way we went about not having visitors at the hospital, I think that worked perfectly. We actually this time have asked our family to wait up until Oliver is 6 weeks old, and then we're going to have a meet and greet for them to all meet him instead of having visitors come and go. So I did have my mum stay with me for 6 weeks. She's gone home now. I have my other two siblings coming to visit, and they're all coming before that 6 weeks. There's a couple of weeks in between there, I think 2 or 3, that we get to ourselves, and so having other visitors on top of that probably honestly would have just been a bit too much. Last time with Hunter, as much as it was lovely seeing everyone came like a week after each other, which was very overwhelming. I didn't really have time in between to just heal and settle, and this time I feel like I've had the opportunity to actually just sit and heal, and I can do things at my own pace. And if I want to go somewhere, I don't have to make plans with anyone. I don't have to worry about what else is going on. I can take things day by day. I can just enjoy the kids as they are. I can enjoy the newborn phase that I missed out on with Hunter because he was in the NICU for so long. I think that definitely that is something that I am really glad that we have done, waiting until then for people to meet Oliver, because I have just been able to share on here with our family, the kids and everything, and update them on our Facebook page. And I think that's been more than enough for us for now. We can still converse with them all, and it also decreases the risks, obviously, of the kids getting sick, not having heaps of people coming and going, because they will have been to schools, they will have been to shops and stuff, and the more people they have around, the more chance there are of them getting sick. So the next thing that I want to talk about is how I feel about Tom going back to work. He goes back to work in another 3 weeks, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit stressed about night times, because Oliver is a very big handful of a nighttime. He does not sleep very well. He really struggles with this silent reflux. I'm really hoping that we can find a way out of it. We've tried so many things, but unfortunately it does make him really unsettled. I have found a couple of things that help slightly, but nothing that is amazing. A few of you have asked how much I sleep. Now that I've found a couple of things to somewhat help with Oliver's sleep, I think I'm probably sleeping from like maybe 9:30 at night to 7 a.m. with maybe 3 or 4 wake ups, probably 4 to be honest, including the 7 a.m. wake up. And I make sure that I feed Oliver right before I go to sleep, and then wake up a couple of times. So it definitely could be worse than the amount of times that we wake up, but something that I've noticed is if I feed him sitting up, he will scream for hours and take hours to get back to sleep, versus if I feed him laying down and just leave him there, which unfortunately does mean that we have to co-sleep instead of putting him into his bassinet, then he will sleep like straight away and the whole night, and I don't have to sit up burping him or anything, and I don't feel anywhere near as tired. Tom and Hunter both get a good night's sleep. Doing it that way means that Hunter actually sleeps through pretty well all the way to the 5 a.m. or even like mostly through the night, and then comes in and gives Tom cuddles for like an hour while he drinks a bottle. But dogs and babies going off at the same time. So yeah, it just means that everyone gets better sleep. So I'm thinking that's probably the route that I'm going to have to go, unless the medication that I've looked into works with Oliver. So hopefully we can do the same thing that worked with Hunter, where he did start off by co-sleeping and we just kind of worked his way back into his bed as his symptoms got better, because Hunter did start off as a bad sleeper but nowhere near as bad as this. And we know obviously that there are actual reasons for this, and it's not just him being like a picky baby or us not putting him down and not doing the cry out method or anything. Like, there are actual issues going on as to why he doesn't sleep very well, or it takes a while to settle. So yeah, I think I'm not too worried about him going to work during the day. I think I'll be fine at home. I think I will probably need a little bit more help with housework, and we'll probably need to do a bit of a housework routine, whether that means I do a few things over night time once Hunter's in bed and Tom just sits with Oliver. Maybe that's something that I need to look into. I'm not too sure what the go is with cloth nappies, because I was planning to go back to them once Tom went back to work, but part of me feels like I'd rather spend the time with the kids and pay the money to keep them in disposables, but at the same time I know how much money we saved keeping Hunter in the cloth. So that's going to be a catch-22 as to what we do there with that, whether we put put them both back in cloth, put just Ollie back in cloth, or put none back in cloth. Not too sure what's going on there. I think that's one thing that may change with Tom going back to work, but overall I don't think I'm too worried about him going back, because I know that I'm a very routine person, and you know, as a mum, you just find a way to make things work. So I don't think I'll worry too much. I think I know where the play groups are. I know what things I can take Hunter to. I know that Hunter is going to be watched for a couple of hours a week one day by my mother-in-law, which will give me a bit of time to do the housework or just have some one-on-one time with Ollie. And you know, occasionally I may switch that up and just have Hunter time, so I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. So the last part that I want to talk about is some of the benefits to having two under two, and some of the things that I've really enjoyed of having them so close together. Someone actually asked me if I was to do it all over again, if I would do the same age gap or different, and I would definitely do the same age gap again. I think that it was really important for me to have the baby phase with Hunter. I definitely don't think I would have wanted them much closer together, maybe like a month or two if I really had to, but I think that in the end we actually ended up with a pretty good age gap, and it allowed me to still enjoy Hunter as a baby all the way through to his 12 months. And the way that my pregnancy went and the way that it was towards the end, I don't think would have been necessarily much easier older or younger, because I still would have needed someone to care for Hunter anyway. I think if I'd had them 3 or 4 years apart, it would have caused other issues, like if my endo had have grown further, I may not have even ended up pregnant and even had a second baby. I wouldn't have been able to return to work as fast, because I plan to return to work when the kids go back to school. There's just like a lot of different things that would factor in if they had a bigger gap, and personally I just wanted them closer together. I think that as they grow up they will be able to enjoy the same things, especially if we want to go on, like, say, a family holiday, or if we want to go out for a weekend, they can keep enjoying similar toys. I can have hand-me-downs, but I don't have to keep 7 years worth of hand-me-downs. I have managed to keep all of Hunter's baby stuff, but I haven't had to store it for years and years, so it's all still fresh and still fine for him to use. I haven't really had to throw out much in the terms of things that have been like stained or anything like that, so that's saved us a lot of money as well. The car seat that Oliver uses is still quite new, it's not very old, so I didn't have to repurchase a new one of those. So financially it is more sense for us to have had them closer, as well as medically. Something else that's been a benefit to Hunter not being an only child for too long is that he hasn't got used to having his own things and having everyone else around with all the attention on him for too long, because I know that that can cause issues as well. I definitely don't think I would have wanted like a 5 or 7 year gap between them. I think that then, even though they're older and can understand and can help more with postpartum recovery, I think if we were only going to have had the 2 kids, then that could have caused a lot of issues with that. But I know that that works for a lot of other people. I just personally would prefer to have had them at, you know, roughly the age gap that they are now. So yeah, I think if anything, you know, the gap that they have now is perfect, and if I was to go for anything different, which I don't think I would, then I would only go for maybe like 2 months older, like 1 or 2 months older. I don't think I would want to go younger or much older. I think, you know, where they are right now is pretty good. And Hunter has changed so much in this last month that I think that things that he has learned in this last month have been perfect timing in terms of how we actually handle 2 under 2. I think had it been a couple months ago, there would have been a lot more challenges for us, because Hunter would have been a lot more baby-like. But also I think had it have been too much older, Hunter also would have started to really remember and think about the fact that he'd always had just our attention and stuff like that, which could have also caused more jealousy issues. So definitely pros and cons to having them closer together and further apart, but I think I would definitely just do it all over again the way that we had. However, obviously, knowing how the end of our pregnancy went, I do wish that I'd had more support here, in terms of like having mum live down here and stuff like that, because I wouldn't have had to stress so much about taking Hunter necessarily to appointments, or I could have had a bit more help with a few things around the house. But I know that that's, you know, a decision we made to move 3,000 kilometers away. So yeah, I think overall I think I'm pretty happy with the age gap that we ended up with anyway, and you know, that's how it worked out. And like I said, had we have waited longer, we may not have even had another baby, because I do have other medical reasons for having babies young. And we also didn't just fall pregnant easily with Hunter either. So you know, we were very lucky to fall pregnant so quickly with Oliver, but definitely weren't expecting that. And so yeah, I guess we don't know. Things could have been very different if we had tried to wait out longer. I'm very lucky also in that because of Hunter's age, I'm able to breastfeed both of them, which I'm going to do a video about tandem feeding, how I feed them, how I manage my supply and the benefits to that and stuff like that. Hunter turns 18 months old next week. He stopped breastfeeding at 14 and a half months and started again when I had Oliver, but not in the traditional way of feeding at the breast. So if you want to learn more about how on earth I'm feeding him, what I'm doing, how I'm producing enough milk for the two of them without having to do things like breast milk shakes, breast milk cookies, anything like that, I'm not doing anything majorly drastic, definitely keep an eye out on my channel, because I'm going to do a video about that. And there is a lot of things that I had to learn about that I didn't realize before having Oliver, or before getting pregnant with Oliver. And I do think that it will be really beneficial to some people for me to do that video, because originally I had planned to follow WHO guidelines to feed Hunter until he was 2, and having them so close together means that I can provide them both with the vitamins out of that, because the 2.5 months that Hunter didn't get breast milk, he got very sick, and already he's not like getting sick at all. So that's so lucky since he's been back on breast milk. And yeah, so that's it for my how I'm adjusting to 2 under 2 so far with a newborn. I'm going to do another one obviously once Tom goes back to work, and then another one when Oliver is moving. And I'm also going to do some day in the life and some routine videos once Tom is back at work as well. So if you'd like to watch those and get more of a realistic glimpse on how things are once I don't have a second person at home, then make sure you subscribe below. It's free, just hit the red button and the bell next to it, and it will notify you anytime I come out with a new video. You can also catch up on any glimpses of photos outside of the channel and everything like that on our Facebook page or our Instagram. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one.